Welcome to Movie Bounce with Mike and Harry, where we'll bounce from movie to movie.
From actor, writer, director, any which way.
Who knows where we'll bounce to next? Hey everybody, it's Mike here.
Harry's here.
And it's another special episode. Another day closer to Christmas. And how are we celebrating it, Harry? What movie are we talking about?
Oh boy, so it's episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. We're closing out the prequel trilogy with this one.
And which song are you going to play while you're watching this movie, Harry?
So I've given it a lot of thought, and we're going with Pearl Jam's Jeremy.
For Revenge of the Sith? I guess there's some
parallels. It's a dark
parallels.
Song for a dark movie.
I guess there's some parallels there, Harry, but it's you playing it over and over again throughout this whole movie?
Well, I might just put it on once. Ooh. You're the one who likes to put it on repeat.
Loop? No, it's not necessary. Loops were necessary for the previous films, but this, I think we're good. There's been such a leap. I think there's been a huge leap from the previous episodes to this one. Maybe it's because it's like, we're getting close to, the bell ringing, and Lucas has got to go out there and make sure he's got everything fit in. It's just like, all right, he's been jerking around the last few episodes, but now he's really got to bring it and end things on the right note. And we've talked about this in, the previous trilogy on how that's a very difficult task. How do you end a trilogy on the right note? It's very difficult to achieve. Funny thing is, I don't know. I think after I saw this film, I don't remember a trailer going into it. We've been talking about that leading up to these films, but I think I was more satisfied with the finale to this trilogy than a lot of trilogies out there. I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying I'm more satisfied. How did you feel going into this?
Well, picture it. 2005. This is the end. This is the culmination of basically the whole reason for this prequel trilogy, right?
Oh boy.
Gonna finally see what happened, what's going on with Anakin, with Obi-Wan. How did he become Darth Vader? All these questions are going to be answered. And we get there. And let me just say, I didn't see the trailer. I was very disappointed with Attack of the Clones. I still held out hope for this movie. Fool me once, etc., etc. But here's the thing. Before this movie came out, there were a series of mini cartoons on the Clone Wars directed by Genndy Tartakovsky.
Right. When did those start airing?
Like in the summer, like leading up to it. So like right before.
Wow. You mean summer of 2004? Because this came out
2005.
Oh, really? Because this came out Memorial Day 2005. That was pretty early.
You know what? Let me actually backtrack on that because I could be wrong. So 2003, correct. So I did make a mistake there.
I don't know how long they had that in the pipeline to get that cartoon that going. How long was that in development?
I don't know, but what I really want to focus on, so these came out well before the movie. So I misremembered. Let me just correct that. And they were amazing. They were stylish. They were great. They were telling great stories. They introduced the character of General Grievous. He was scary. He was a badass. You got so much out of these. You really started to see Anakin turning. There was one really great episode where he's pissed off. He's walking through the streets, and you could see he's looking at all like these aliens, and then you can kind of see, because obviously the Empire is racist against aliens and they only like humans, and you just see he's starting to get angry. So it's doing such a great job. It was doing everything that the movie should have been doing. And watching these, you're like, I'm ready. You know what? Like let's do this. It's going to be great. There's going to be some great new characters in here. I've seen them in the cartoon. A movie comes out, and it was just another letdown.
Wow.
And it's for me, I get what you're saying, and I think it's certainly more engaging than the others, definitely. But I still didn't enjoy it. It still had a lot of the issues of the other ones. It had a lot to take care of in a limited amount of time. It just disappointed. We only see the iconic Darth Vader at the very end. Anakin Skywalker, he obviously turns and he has some screen time being a villain, But I wanted to see, like, this entire movie should have started with Anakin Skywalker already evil, and it should have culminated to that kind of that final duel. It was the only duel that they had between Obi-Wan and Anakin. I just felt like the pacing was off. There wasn't enough gravitas.
I don't think there was a problem as much. I didn't have as much of a problem with pacing. It was a little bit more like I just wish they had gotten the ball rolling on this earlier. I was more compelled by Hayden Christensen's performance in this one. You know, in Attack of the Clones, there's that scene where Hayden Christensen and Obi-Wan is walking into the bar, and Obi-Wan says, "You're going to be the death of me, Anakin." And then Anakin goes, "Well, why would I ever do that to you? I mean, I care for you so much." And it's a little bit too, oh my gosh, like, geez, he couldn't even keep that as being subtle. Like, you know, so they plant a little bit of the seeds of everything kind of leading up to this, to the end of this. Not this, end of this, I should say, the episode 4. It's just here. It's just like, no, we gotta keep things going. We gotta race through this. The one thing I like is that it's a little more kinetic. It's a little bit more kind of like the pacing is a lot better. And I think that while I wasn't totally on board the previous episodes, a lot of what they did plant did pay off. So Obi-Wan, I'm so invested in Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor's character here, that I'm like, yeah, I'm committed to this guy now. He spent so much time, years with these movies now. And Hayden Christensen to some degree as well. Their dynamic is working better. It's not great. It's just better. Because I'm comparing episode 1 to 2 to 3. It's not a great comparison, but I'm like, okay, I'm kind of hitting some kind of a stride here with them. I didn't find it really that dull. Maybe a little bit dull in the beginning. Even Natalie Portman's character, Samuel L. Jackson, which we didn't talk about enough in the previous episodes, but it's like he was introduced in the Phantom Menace. There wasn't too much done with his character there. In Attack of the Clones, he's involved a little bit more, and he's kind of establishing more credibility and more weight to his character. And then here, it's like, again, you've gone on a journey with his character, and it's so funny because I remember that, you know, I think at the MTV Movie Awards, he said the one thing he didn't want George Lucas to do was have him go out like a sucker. And then how does he go out in this one? You know, right out the window. But still, it's just I still wanted more from his character. As much as they've set everything up, I think that there was more that could have been done. It just seems like a little bit too much was crammed in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and we just had so much more cramming to do. With Ewan McGregor being the only character that had the proper real screen time throughout all of these 3 films.
I just feel like perhaps the tragedy of this movie for me is that there was enough there that I wish they did better with it. So I think of like the character General Grievous. He was very comedic in this movie, and I didn't like that. There was just certain elements to it where I thought, well, this actually could have been a lot better. The pieces were there. They were just not fit in properly, or they were misused. In terms of the journey that you reach, yeah, you know, I think Obi-Wan, I definitely had that feeling towards that. I liked Samuel Jackson, and so I, of course, liked him in this movie, and I was glad that he got more time. But I was not happy with how his character was kind of treated towards the end.
Yeah, it's just we know Samuel L. Jackson. We know in every film that he's in, there's a certain presence he brings. And a lot of what we've gotten used to it. I mean, like literally, he's only in Phantom Menace for a few minutes. He's got more screen time in the second one, but here you're right. It's just it seems like they haven't really done. Lucas really hasn't done him a great service with that character, and why we like it is mostly what Samuel L. Jackson brings, but not to and that seems like the big through line to most of these films. It's what these actors bring to the script, not what the script.
Yeah, he's really letting a lot of people down, not just the audience, but the actors. Like, he has access to a lot of great talent, not just the actors and actresses, but also people doing the character designs, the costume designs. He's not using them to their maximum ability, or if he is, he's squandering that.
Right.
And then, you know, what I also like to talk about a little bit is where I was disappointed as a Star Wars fan, because, you know, that's something that's, you know, also important to me when I saw these movies back then. When you get to the end of the movie and they kill all the Jedi, that's not how it's really been positioned in the original trilogy and how it's always been kind of communicated. You always had the sense that Darth Vader actually went down and killed these Jedi pretty much one by one for the most part. And that would have been very cool. That would have made for a great movie. That's why I wanted.
So if this movie started with that, like, okay,
Right.
the first two movies, they led up to that point where he's off there killing them off one by one. They start with that, and then you just have him doing that, and Obi-Wan has to come in and stop him. That I do think that would be a much more compelling story. What else would be done with the subplot? That's something else. But that's another great entry point, I think, because you'd have that presence would be there from the very beginning, as opposed to like, whoa, how are things going to be tied up here?
And I don't want to do this because I'm sure it's been done throughout, by Star Wars fans everywhere. But let me pitch something to you, which I think would have made.
All right, you're going to pitch. Okay, I can't wait.
So think about it this way. It's not that Anakin Skywalker had to have the Darth Vader costume to be Darth Vader, right? That he needs that to live after that final duel that they had.
Right.
So I think it would have been a much cooler movie where maybe you learn that in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan and Anakin became estranged and he can't find him or something happened. Mm-hmm. But now they're hearing about this new Sith, this Darth Vader, and they don't know who he is. And every Jedi that goes to find him doesn't come back, they get killed. And then eventually the reveal for Obi-Wan is when he finally finds out it's actually Anakin. And then I think there would be a lot more turmoil there. And that could be for a more compelling kind of movie.
That's great. I love to see that. But why hasn't this again? I do think this is the best of the three episodes. But why isn't this more thought out to the point where Lucas had all this time to have this be the journey, the definitive journey from what he's been hinting at through the previous three films for episode 4, 5, and 6.
I don't think that, and I would actually say that this could have been an issue with the original trilogy, but again, he was probably reined in by other directors, other writers. These movies all suffer from bloat. George Lucas bites off way more than he can chew for each of these movies. He wants to do a lot, and I can respect that. He's got technology. He wants to have starship battles. He wants to have land battles. He wants to take you to this planet. He wants to show you this other planet. He's excited about it. I think I think there is a sincerity of, that he does have an excitement and he wants to wow the audience and he wants to take them on this whirlwind adventure. But sometimes you gotta bring it back a little bit, and you gotta focus on your characters a little bit more, and you have to say, sometimes less is more, and that's certainly not the case. These movies are just crammed with visuals, with all kinds of stuff, and that just because you can do it doesn't mean that it's going to work out.
Well, listen, all we have is what was presented to us. Absolutely. And that experience. And we talk about how did you feel like before the trailer, and watching the trailer. And again, I don't remember the trailer, but after watching this movie, I went out going, "Wow, okay, things got rolling." That was, and a lot of what I really liked, what resonated with me the most, was that dynamic between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and of course the lava. I mean, the scene goes on a little bit way too long, the lightsaber battle with at the end. And then how Obi-Wan leaves him. It's a little bit ridiculous. But still, I bought it in the moment because of the performances. Ewan McGregor doing a great job. And then, of course, Hayden Christensen doing more than what he brought to the table with Attack of the Clones.
Sure.
Because I wish they did more with Natalie Portman throughout all these films. But it's really Ewan McGregor's journey is why I like this film more. And why, if I look more fondly on episode 1 and 2, it's mostly due to him.
He does an excellent job.
Who doesn't? We said it before in Return of the Jedi episode, but it's the Emperor.
I do like the scene where they're at that opera and he's insinuating that he impregnated Shmi Skywalker. He did a really bad job when he's becoming all twisted in real time when he's fighting Mace Windu. So I will agree with you that there are certain points where it's just terrible, but every now and then he's got some good scenes in him.
I think he's better in this. I like him playing this role here than when he goes full Emperor. I do.
Sure.
I appreciate it more. I don't care for all this other stuff. Let's listen to Jeremy. And I like the build up to it because you're so paying attention to the turns, so I do like that. I still like it though. I can see myself revisiting this film, more. Like I said before, there's certain movies that I have only a few more viewings than me. This one, I think I have a few. I think it's close to being a good. It's an okay to good movie in my opinion.
Yeah, I should watch it again.
With lower expectations.
Right.
Again, for me, as we look at every film, not just the Star Wars films, but every film, it's like, what do we take away from this film? What are we going to remember the most? And people might remember things differently. I mean, again, like I remember the third act of this and third act of Phantom Menace more than other scenes and such. So that's what I take with me. But it's what you take. So what do you take away from this movie the most?
I definitely take away the sadness of, I will say, the tragedy of Darth Vader, of Anakin turning into Darth Vader, is not lost on me.
Yeah.
I think it does penetrate, even this kind of jaded heart. So to that point, that's effective. I think the movie leading up to the very end is pretty superfluous. That scene where like Obi-Wan is riding that giant lizard or something, and General Grievous is in like this spinning wheel, which looks like it was basically in there because they wanted to sell that toy. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not particularly interested in or fond of. But when we arrive at that third act, when, Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor does a great job of really selling me on just how twisted up he is about what has happened to his friend and his apprentice and all that stuff. So I buy that for sure. And all that stuff is really sad. And I like kind of seeing how all these main characters kind of go their separate ways in order to then eventually come back in the classic trilogy, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I think that's successful overall.
Yeah.
I do, that the now iconic scene of Darth Vader first appearing and just saying no, and I really hated that from the get-go, but I'm a little older now and I can see, that's kind of the last time that Anakin Skywalker is truly Anakin Skywalker.
Right.
That's where he still has a little bit of his humanity, right? He's mourning the loss of his wife. He's a monster now. And then from then on, he just becomes truly Darth Vader.
Right. It's funny. You mentioned before that the news that came out recently is that Disney's going to do an Obi-Wan series and that Hayden Christensen is back. Due to this film, I am more intrigued to watch that because I do like that dynamic. I would love to see more of them because of two things. You want to see how everything leads up to that moment in A New Hope where Darth Vader says, I haven't had an experience, I haven't felt like this ever since.
Right.
You want that gap filled to some degree. Now we did that in our minds, but a part of me is like, yeah, I like those characters, those two together.
I'm really hoping that they do something interesting with it. I probably won't watch the series. As I've mentioned, it's not that I have anything against Star Wars. I just don't have it in me to commit to that, because then can I just watch that, or do that I need to watch all the other shows? And I don't think I have the time to devote to Star Wars anymore.
Ooh, well, you can't. Come on, listen.
I have such a fondness in my heart for Star Wars.
I do think, and from what I've seen of The Mandalorian, I do think that'll be revitalized. I think if you give that and not look at it as a TV show, the one thing I will say about The Mandalorian is that it doesn't have, as I typically gripe about with TV shows, is that there's filler. These episodes, it's not committed to a 1 hour length. Some of them are shorter, some of them are longer, because they're only going to commit to the time in which they need to tell the story. And that commitment, that purpose, that should give you enough I'd say if you did give it a chance, I think you'd like it more. But you kind of can't look at it as a TV show. Just these very well could be movies.
Well, look, I'll probably be getting Disney Plus in the new year, so I'll give it a spin.
Okay, so I know we're not going to go into heavy detail with this movie, but the one other thing I want to say is that I think this is the film where, like, again, going back to Ewan McGregor, like, just the character. What I do like with what was written, that was peppered in, is that, you got Obi-Wan's hesitation with Anakin when he was a kid, and then being committed to training him after, Qui-Gon Jinn passed away, when he got brutally slaughtered by Darth Maul. But anyway, that journey from that to this final route with his friend. That is something that I think just kind of elevates the most, I think, from all these three films, for me at least. Anything else that maybe, is there a through line through these episodes that you find that does resonate throughout all of them?
Yeah, despite everything, despite all the mishandling, obviously, they still accomplished, Lucas still accomplished the goal, because we have that feeling at the end. We did buy into their relationship despite, any issues we had with the prequels overall. Like, the ending does have a punch to it. It is emotional. So, kudos to that for sure.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what this entire trilogy was supposed to be about. So maybe if we keep that in mind, and it was supposed to be about this friendship of Obi-Wan and Anakin and how Anakin turns, then hey, then maybe mission accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, did you get, as someone with a lot of investment in this all these films, did you have any frustration after you left this theater when you watched it the first time?
Well, I remember we actually saw it together, and I remember we went to a bar afterwards to kind of do a postmortem. I think my frustration came with, like, this is it. This is the story. Like, we've always speculated it, and maybe we had an idea in our minds on how it would turn out. But this is definitively how the story ends. Now that these prequels were done, it was like you couldn't hope anymore. You couldn't hope that the next one would be better. That's it. Right. Like, you got all three, and they weren't that great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did get a little bit of a high of episode 3, because as you remember, we went to a bar afterwards, and then I was basically still kind of excited, because I'm like, man, I haven't felt this energy from a Star Wars film since, like, Empire. Mm-hmm. And it was mostly because of that note that you ended on. If you love this movie, I'm glad you love it. I think I got some semblance of what the people who love it, what they got out of it, so I'm thrilled that I got that. So that's kind of it. Anything else more you want to say about this?
No, we've closed out the prequel trilogy. I think I'd like to think we were fair, tough but fair. And hey, you know what? Like, if you like these movies, that's awesome, because there's a lot of cool things in them, and they can be a lot of fun. And absolutely. Like, why not enjoy them?
Yeah. Well, I'm holding in my Christmas excitement, because it's December 21st, Harry. We're days away, and we've only got more Star Wars to go. We've got 3 more of these movies, and we're going to take things on another turn with some new characters and some
old faces.
Old faces. But, gonna be what's next? Like, we've seen these movies, we know that, but we're gonna go down this journey, like, going into them with fresh eyes, and just what are we gonna pick out from these movies? What's gonna stick with us? We can't wait. The Christmas, the holidays couldn't be any better right now. So we'll see you all next time on the next episode. We'll bounce and see you then.
See you then.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to not miss a single bounce.
We'll catch you next time, and don't forget to leave reviews on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you listen to Movie Bounce.